Hi. Samora's gone for the day. They asked me to take over. I don't know if it works. I don't see anything working. It appears to be working, perhaps. I can't tell. Okay, it's working. Hi. Um, I was instructed to carry on with matters as normal with the presence of you all. So that's what we're gonna do. I don't. That's loud. Headset loud. I'm not used to headset. Headset very loud. Okay. I haven't been here in a bit. Spectre Seekers? Hello. Total crackhead. I'm going to guess that is just a nickname because otherwise that would be illegal, I think. I don't know. I don't know all your laws. You're all confusing to me. Heard there was an adjustment in my equipment. It was an accident, but I'm not entirely upset that I did that. You are confusing. Well, it is lovely to meet you. I am unsure on how it is custom here. If that makes any sense. Probably. I still can hear my voice. That's a bit unnerving. Alright. Hello. I hope everything is well with you and that you feel joy in your existence. How about me? Oh, anxious? I haven't been here before, but Soul told me I had to start doing stuff. Or Samora. I'm Soul. I don't know what you're talking about. That's how anxious I am, if it wasn't obvious. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know how to respond to that. That is rather unfortunate. But don't worry, I'm here to help. Just generally. You know, you make sure your world doesn't fall apart and all that. I heard that was an important thing to get across. But I appreciate your attendance. Oh, Samora is on meds like that too. They appear to help them, but I'm not aware of how they were before, so I cannot report on how they are exactly beneficial, but it is good to get help in any means that you have available. So that's good, I believe. Heard there was paranormal activity, but I am unsure of. Oh, I'm getting something here. It is? I don't know. I can only assume that you're referencing what I had just said. And so I am going to assume that is correct. It appears to be getting electromagnetic frequencies of 5. They're gonna help you out? Alright, good. I would be a bit cautious. Samora had almost a whole week of insomnia when they first started their depression medication, which is rather unfortunate. But they survived. They survived a lot, unrelated to that. But that's okay. Hearing. I believe I heard the squeaks of the Ouija board. Oh. That's one way to witness. Nope. It raises the doll. Hello, Andy. I don't know if that's how you spell Andy, but I'm going to assume that you're the one Samora has told me about. So hi, how are you? I hope your existence has been optimal. I am incredibly anxious. So, yeah. Also, I believe that is crying. Book is a skull. These are not great options at all. I don't remember what this enemy does, but that's why I'm here to eradicate it. Also, I believe that I'm... This is great. I'm so glad to make progress. Progress is amazing. But I also don't remember who I am up against. I believe it is the one that... Yes, you. Behavioral features: lights candles on the location, turns off the light bulbs in the rooms, interacts with the door, throws various objects. The Dream Devourer's unique attacks can steal the player's consciousness, moving it into a small human clone. The player's task at this point is to return the body. If the ghost steals the consciousness of all players, they lose. Rate of camera flashes: if you take a picture, then the speed of movement and the number of attacks decrease for a while. Kind of an odd phrasing, but I suppose it is beneficial. Also, am I looking to the right a little too much? Hold on. I don't know why it is doing that. Hello, Volt, Weaver. I do not understand why your Pokemon playing has been a possibly negative thing towards me. Didn't know it was me. Oh, that's alright. I will pass the message along to Samora. I'm sure they will forgive you. How is your existence lately? Good, I hope. I am incredibly anxious being on camera. It's a very odd thing to do. Being honest, horrible. Why is it horrible? That's not good. Need the mirror. Mirror must be discovered. As far as I'm aware, the mirror can appear in the basement, but I am unsure about where. Life has been beating you up. It is, time for education, is it not? The school system is active once more, I believe. This is rather inconvenient, is it not? But I suppose it is how it is. Hey. I am dead. Well, that's rather unfortunate. Though it does make sense that my body would not be able to hold onto its gear while I am currently uninhabiting it. I am a ghost. Also, thank you on my dress. I made it myself. I don't understand. Who is Lily? Are you referencing Samora? That is an odd nickname. I've never known them to have it. Samara had motivated you to buy Cuphead plus DLC a few days ago. Oh? I'm glad to hear that we have struck in some motivation within you. Have you been enjoying your new game? I heard that one is quite difficult. However, I'm sure that you are able to defeat it and conquer the evil within it. You beat it 3 days after purchase, and you beat Chef Saltbaker on your second attempt ever. That is quite impressive, I believe. Congratulations. The curious artificer dons her mask. Where is my tribute, child? Hello there. I am unaware of your presence. What is a tribute, child? Unless those are two separate things. Am I the child? That's a scary woman. I am not sure who you all are referencing. You are all quite odd creatures, I believe. Child of the stars. Well, I am a child of the stars, but I do not believe I look any different than I always have. I believe I've always looked this way. Unless you are referencing Samora, in which case she is not around at the current moment. She instructed me to deal with this broadcast today. For whichever reason, she desired me not to pass along to you all. I'm odd, but that's the way I portrayed myself, so I'm not plain and boring to other people. There's nothing wrong with being average. If nobody was average, then there wouldn't be an average. Drug using. Good name. Why are there shadow monsters? Those are Not something I recognize. Nor the purple light. I suppose for a dream devourer, it would make sense to have some sort of hallucinations. The light seems to draw them away then. Me? Are you referring to me? Also, what should I call you? Your name has so many nouns in it, it seems hard to identify an actual name. Boring and salty. That sounds like your oceans. Those are quite odd things. Although I suppose their ocean is quite less boring. There's quite a lot of life in it. The potential marionette on my screen, yes. A marionette is a puppet, is it not? However, I do not know which screen you are appearing to look at. Or if you are referring to me as a puppet, we might have a bit of diplomatic difference here. Saltine crackers. Lucifer will suffice. If you are feeling foggy, you can call me master. Froggy? Perhaps, what do you mean by froggy? I feel like that is not quite a verb often used in this context. But however, I do not understand most of your English. It's rather confusing. There are so many things that mean the same thing, and yet they're all different. And they should stay different. But whatever. Do I like books? I haven't really learned to read very much, if I am honest. Samora taught me the basics to communicate with you all, but I have not read much beyond that. Oh my goodness. What did you do? Oh my god, you have subbed. I was not told what to do in this scenario. I have much gratitude for your contribution. I am rather stunned, actually. Samora did not warn me about anything of this happening, so I very much, both of us, appreciate you. I didn't hear through the ad and I have rectified the problem. Well, we much appreciate your contribution. Samora will be quite pleased, and I will make sure to pass on that information to them. Anything may have said lost in transition. I'm not entirely sure what transition. I'm unaware of what was missed, mainly because I am unaware of what was said. However, I kind of understand. Is only a sad little schoolboy. You are a single person for the moment? I'm lost. Oh, Voltweaver has said a plural. Okay, I understand now. You would prefer to be transformed into a puppet? I thought you were a marionette master. Wouldn't that be the opposite? Do you wish to be controlled by yourself? I guess that is a contribution that a lot of people desire to have. For control for you people do not seem to always be an easy thing to achieve. Which is quite odd. What do I like to do? Oh, I haven't necessarily found any hobbies. I mainly just work. Although Samora told me that I should definitely contribute to this venture of theirs due to public opinion of an otherworldly being. But I suppose that makes entire sense considering what happened last time. Do I like naps? I have no need to sleep. So no, I do not rather enjoy. So what is my story? What happened last time? Oh, I was told not to elaborate so much right now as to keep the sanity of you all. And mainly Samora. She is preparing a certain stage for that to be portrayed in, considering we did not have it recorded on hand because the results of it were not predicted to be so catastrophic. Why is puppet person and soul waste speech so similar? I'm unsure. Perhaps we both speak in a calm manner enough to make it irrelevant English. I mean, my ears, of course, have muscles, but they mostly follow where they may. It is not necessarily important for them to be controlled. You get accused of being a strange entity you may have eclipsed in that resolve. I suppose I can fall under the same umbrella. Although I cannot lie that it is nice to see someone who understands you're good. Do I have human ears as well? No, I do not. But please do not try to imagine it without my hair. It will drive you a bit insane, and I will appear quite uncomfortable in your brain. I do not mind the questions. It is why I am here. To be a figure for you all to witness. Too late for that. Well, I apologize for your discomfort, but at the same time, it is entirely your fault. Keep hearing noises. It would take more than that to make you uncomfortable. Discomfort can be a good thing. It is how you people grow. However, I also realize that comfort is a thing that you much prefer to experience. So you got any more cat features? Can I turn into a cat? I'm not particularly a feline, although I do share the features of one, but that's only because I was before them. But Mora was more determined to make the felines than I was. I honestly took it quite insulting to be portrayed as such an idiotic creature. But perhaps it is just the way that you decide to envision it. We have the puppet. How relevant. Was my dress made with star magic or anything like that? Oh, no. It was made before the stars. Well, your star at least. It is quite complicated. I am incredibly. Although technically your year system is based around the star, so that makes it a little hard to pinpoint exactly when. A disgusting creature, you say? Wait till you find out I'm a fallen angel that can really disgust you. Oh, perhaps. You're both very formal. I appreciate that. I mostly just speak like this because I'm, not much related to humanity, and so hearing the words that were taught to me is just kind of a natural instinct, I suppose. To be honest, I am quite nervous. Yes, it is quite topical that the ghost be a puppet. Although the evil must be purged. Does my speech patterns upset you, Voltweaver? There was indeed a time when Samora talked like this as well. Get out of here. Speech patterns are good. I am glad that they please you. So why do I have feline features? Were you born like that, or do you choose to appear this way in our minds so don't explode from extortion? Oh, I was born this way, I suppose, although birth is not necessarily a relevant term. But yes, I did not choose this form. Although technically I am not appearing in my actual full physicality to you due to the dimensional difference, but that's okay. Why is everything red? No, thank you. I suppose, yes. It would be more relevant. So who's older? Assuming Lily equates to Samora, I am much older than her. Me and her are unalike. We just happen to both be around after a horrid event. And then we have built everything from the ground up. Can I eat a star? Can I eat a star, or can you eat a star? Can I make you eat a star? Technically, no, I do not believe so. Stars burn incredibly hot for your consumption. Providing you with, quote, star powers, however, is not necessarily relevant. So you are the star? No, I am not a star. I was simply given the name by Samora. There was a individual who decided to wipe out much of what was known, and at the end of it all, it was just me and Samora. The details of such event are hopefully going to be portrayed in a much more interesting way, so I do not hope to ruin the surprise. Also, hello, Dark King Cole. You have an odd name. I hope Samora makes fun of it often. New model? No, I'm not a new model. I am a different person. But hello. How are you? I'm going to assume that you go by K due to your name being a mix of only a single noun. Although I am quite disappointed if you find this a bit more optimal than Samora, but that's fine. Surprises are supposed to be good and not horrific events. This is advice from someone who knows of bad surprises. Well, it is in the past now, I suppose. It is just not documented in your history. Mainly because it would be before your history even began. Although it was indeed a human who caused it. Quite an odd circumstance that we would recreate creatures so destructive. Am I able to feel emotions? Yes. I do not have a brain in the same sense as you do, but I do understand empathy, and hanging around humans so much has kind of projected onto me. I am soul. No, Samora is not here for once. All words spoken in the past are ones that are typed. Not entirely sure what you mean. Do I like emotions? No, they become entirely unnecessary when it becomes important that they stay out of the way. Although I'm very much not necessarily in charge of my emotions, I seem to have a much better control of them than Samara ever could. Do I want a family? I don't fully understand the concept. I believe your family. The hell is going on? Your family units make no sense to me. If you wish to interact with people, why not interact with the billions of other people on the planet already? Do I enjoy the presence of you? Yes, I do. I very much enjoy your presence. I forgot how aggressive the puppet could be. Because you don't like the other millions of people? I'm sure there are billion. I said billion, correct? We have only just met. I don't understand why I am contributed to that, but I appreciate it. Although I am quite worried that I am going to eventually come off as annoying to those I have not met. Samara had informed me that specifically me and you may not get along. I am also noticing that my eyes are fluttering a tad more than they should be. Have I ever read Maze Runner? I have. You had asked me earlier if I have read anything, and the answer is still no. Not a Fallen Angel. It's a good book. I will pass that along. Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me. I'd forgotten about that encounter. It is no issue to you. Have I played Five Nights at Freddy's? I have not. Samora definitely has. Lucifer, it seems that you have maybe put off Volweaver. Which does not make much sense to me considering our identical talking standards, but I suppose to each their own, as you people say. Oh, I believe I need a flashlight to ward off the many marionettes. Do I have a stomach? I can indeed consume, although I do not have to. If that is what you are requesting be answered. I just sound like Samora? Well... Look, I can only hold a character so well, okay? I don't know what you want from me here. Breaking a fourth wall for a moment. I don't know what you want, okay? Soul. So would be my name. Wait, I want to be attacked, don't I? Where did the puppet go? I don't know what concept you were referring to. There is no character here. There is only two people, and Samora is off doing God knows what. And by God, I mean God. Poor terminology. Do I have taste buds? Yes, otherwise eating would be rather depressing. Wow, I really lucked out with that fire, did I not? I used the wrong material, and yet I'm still alive. I still lived. Do I have a tail? No, I do not. I would have hoped all buildings have a fourth wall. Uh-oh. Are you referring to her tail? That does sound quite troubling. Why would you become hypnotized by just the rhythmic motion? I'm unaware of any triangular buildings, but I suppose that I do not know what to say. It's too smooth. Good. I mean, I assume biological functions would be rather repetitive enough to be smooth. You suggest that I eat a lemon. I don't have access to any of those at the moment. Also, they take quite an effort to create, considering they have to grow. I am becoming half distracted. I apologize. I'm on a mission here. How about circular rooms? They only have one wall. A circle has an infinite amount of points, so it has an infinite amount of walls. That would be identical to saying a circle is not a wall at all, if it has no walls. Would it not? These marionettes are quite annoying. These better not be your doing, Lucifer. Being chased. Notice SamoraSol, do you have organs, or are you just matter worth no insights? Oh, technically I do have organs, although they do not serve as much of an identical purpose as yours do. Mine are not needed to keep me alive. And my blood is rather cold compared to yours. They have points on a grid, do they not? I would hope I would be familiar with this concept. A line has identical amount of points. Not a point as in a sharp, but in math. Did I light all the candles already? Oh, light sources. I am a fool. I knew something was wrong. That was not correct either. This light is broken. That's why it's not working. One, two, three. This one does not work. That one is now broken. The puppet is a bit too close for my liking. This thing better recharge fast. Oh, the lights are not very active. Plasma absorber, holy salt. Can we be best friends? Quite the commitment on first impressions. I agree with that sentiment on that is quite a commitment. Although I suppose Samara would have to beat you in terms of best friends. However, I'm not against being friends at all. Technically, Samara enjoying my company was never mentioned. We were simply forced together by fate. Yes, we talk quite often. It'd be rather hard to create without communication. We work together, I suppose, if that qualifies. Y'all are friends. You seem to use y'all a lot, especially with different punctuation, and it is rather confusing me. And also, I am once again distracted. Where am I? Plasma absorber. Holy salt is next. You'd wager we would kiss. Me and Sil both do not understand your affection, I suppose. Ignore the pupper. I'm not sure if that is short for puppet or not, but I will make sure to do that. Pupper worked just the same, relatively. Although, however, I need the puppet in my presence, so I can use this thing on him. Point proven. What is going on here? Quite odd. I'm not missing much. Are you referring to the aforementioned kiss that you, for some reason, expect us to participate in? Also, Kay, I don't know if you are still around, but were you ever? No, you couldn't have been around. Never mind. Do not worry about it. Samara used to have an old voice changer that she still has access to that she could lend me. However, there is a reason that I do not participate with it anymore, and I will hold up that reason. For, well, multiple reasons, I suppose. The main one being quality drop. I do not wish to provide you all with lackluster amounts of entertainment. I do not have the catcher on me, do I? Well, I wouldn't mind one that just affects the pitch of my voice, but the artificial intelligence integrated into the other one was quite, it misunderstood me quite often, and I could not talk as frequently. But I suppose if I'm doing this type of speech pattern, it would make a lot more sense to be able to do it. However, it would still contribute rather difficulty to actually participate. But yes, if you are aware of any that simply mess with the pitch and less of the artificial intelligence type, that'd be quite useful. Bring the cursed toy to the car. I suppose I will. And besides, I'm not sure if Samora would be more happy to use it for themselves or if they would provide me with such a thing. Or both. I suppose technically our voices can still be different without being identical. Oh, I am realizing I'm getting hurt by this thing. My light was not on. Persuaded to share. Are you speaking of a voice changer? I would certainly be curious. However, I do not, as you may have provided in the past. Such bribes are not becoming of me if you are currently searching for one. However, the information you could indeed share is of great interest. So maybe some more will be something to take up on that. I will pass on the information if you do not wish to share freely. However, I am once again not sure what they could provide. I sound kind of robotic, don't I? I suppose I am still understanding myself. As is much. Hear many footsteps. It's not helpful. As helpful as it would be, I am unaware. You are not doing research. I can have the puppets do so. How many puppets are under your control? Sir, ma'am? Both? What is the... I do not recall what, if there is a identical that is classified. Alright. I suppose secrets are a requirement for you people, although I don't understand why. You can be as honest or as deceitful as you please. I will pretty much take anything you desire at face value and not question it. I am super cool. I appreciate your compliment. However, I do not know how to process it properly. I do not know how to process much properly. But once again, I am still new to socializing. But I appreciate it nonetheless. And I appreciate your presence as well. I could not find the toy to complete the side objective. I figured I would just get this done. You'd have to rewrite something. What would you rewrite? Your opinion of me? Considering you had just complimented me? That is an odd thing to sway your judgment of a person, but I suppose it cannot be helped. Your personality? Ah. How would you rewrite that? Rewriting one's personality is quite difficult. After experience, I can say so. By changing yourself, you are only disappointing the people you have already met and enjoy you. I recommend just being what makes you happy. But again, I suppose it cannot be helped. Do you perhaps wish to share the name of it? That would be quite helpful. Right, we do not know the ghost yet. I have heard of one called Clownfish. However, I do not believe it is quite standard. Voxel voice changer. However, it is quite outdated. Well, I suppose any benefit would be a benefit. I will add it to the list of things that I must do. I appreciate your contribution, and I hope that your stage gets ever brighter for it. I'm losing my voice, it appears, which is odd. You prefer how I sound right now? Well, you have not experienced the alternative, so speak with caution. Lily's dog. If you are speaking of Kobu, I presume they are, right? They have not seen them for almost a week. So, good, I hope. Although I have never met the thing. What did we all do last week? Are you referring to the streams? Voice Wave is a modern one. You've seen, highly recommended. The name sounds familiar, but I do not know why. It appears to be powered by artificial intelligence, however, which may create the same effect I was hoping to avoid. But I will look into them. I suppose I gave up too soon after I determined that I did not... Yes, I will just stop talking, because I do not know where this sentence is going. You guys, you haven't seen them since like week. What did y'all do or talk about last week? For a stream, Samora had given up. I had never started to even try. It is not exactly my concern. So I suppose in a way, by not doing anything, I have given up. But once Samara threw in the towel, I just accepted that, mainly because, once again, I did not even attempt. Such is the way that it works. Doodles, huh? Child. The child is quite annoying. Do I just float around space? No, there is no purpose to that. I try my best to keep busy. I did not lose any appearance. I have no idea what you are referring to. But I appreciate I appreciate the sentiment. Ouija board. Although I am being told that Samara may leave me to more of the complicated things in the future if you all wish to see more of me. However, I make no promises, mainly because it is not up to me. But Samara seems pretty dead set on it, so I suppose I cannot do anything. Not that I am her slave or anything, I simply follow her orders to a T. That is incorrect. I follow her suggestions closely. She does not control me the same way I do not control her, although I easily could if I wanted to. But it has been proven that she is a decent asset to have in a partner. Why am I still looking? Oh, yes. To try something called catnip. I have been informed of this substance, and however, I am still not a feline. But yes, I understand the joke. Oh, easily me. Samora was simply an ease of access type of situation, and she had valuable information. So now we simply work together, but she still must eat, sleep, exist as normal. Quite annoying, if I must admit. Just ironic that the child is both old and calm. Easily strong, though. No, not by my standards, I suppose. Ew, normal, I agree. It is quite annoying. However, she's still a good asset. It is not a hard fight at all. She has very little power. Considering your time of existence, even if you could beat her up, theoretically she would be unkillable by you at least. So no, successfully beating her up in your standards would not be beneficial to you. Well, it would not be possible, but it wouldn't be beneficial overall. Is that a song? I am unaware. These are rather unfortunate things to not have work. Sense works, I suppose. Might as well. I do not know what a Joltik is. Power is overrated. It consumes lesser beings with the lust for power. Confuses the fallen angel. You're referring to yourself, yes? Physically, I believe you cannot, considering they appear to be... What the hell is this? This is quite obscene. What the... I'm incredibly confused and unaware of this ability that it had. And they are suddenly gone. Odd. Yes, I'm aware you are a fallen angel. Most tend not to speak to themselves in the third person, so I was simply confirming. But as you have said before, you seem to be an odd case. I do not know that... Am I a god? I have been compared as such. However, I would not consider myself one. They're looking for mummies. I am not a mother. And I refuse to be such. You create many clones of yourself that begin to chase. If the attack, you must not look at them to avoid taking damage. Seems productive. I would make a good mother. I have been told so. I was also instructed to perhaps act more motherly, which I am not entirely against. However, I am not doing at this juncture. Very calming presence. Yes, well, perhaps a different day. Although, once again, I'm not very akin to the idea of a familial unit. Being forced into the situation of different people as you were simply came into existence with is kind of ridiculous. Although perhaps taking on a more motherly role for you individuals wouldn't be the worst thing. I'm sure it would definitely attract some more individuals. However, I do not know if I would appreciate being called a mommy. That seems a rather odd thing to do, especially considering I don't know anyone. Odd concept to discuss. Lily be a demigod? No, she is basically human. At least by your standards. She is simply of a higher dimension than you all. And so defeating her physical form doesn't necessarily kill her due to the infinite amount of planes that she could exist on out of your perception. Reviving herself would be as simple as stepping forward. Once again distracted. I swear I am not usually this disoriented. Correct the toy. I believe that I would perhaps not like to admit that. The idea of a mother is... it's an odd thing. You do not think making a half-assed Doctor Who ref would lead to this kind of chat conversation? What was the reference you made? I am unfamiliar with the media. Do I like angels? I suppose I do not necessarily dislike them. It is an odd concept that was invented by you all, although obviously some do exist. What about fallen angel's mother? Are you asking if I do not understand the full question. Also, why is everything turned into red hue? I believe this is supposed to scare me. However, it's just kind of made my job quite more difficult. Oh, hello. I need to not look at them. I forgot. This is what I need. Can I eat worlds instead of stars? I suppose I can do either to an extent. I just have no purpose to. I might. Odd interaction. You are experimenting? How exactly are you experimenting? Can you make me do that? Give me an infinite stomach capacity and an enlarging mouth? I believe that would kill you, would it not? To fill up a human stomach like a balloon would lead to it rupturing. And even if it is ever expanding, your body would not be expanding. It is a careful what you wish for type of situation. That would also kill you. It pleases me more to be called mom or mother than mommy. However, there are other things I would rather be called to an extent. That is not one of them, however, but I appreciate the vibe compliment. However, I imagine Samora's partner is going to be quite confused by the amount of nicknames being thrown my direction. Oh, but that would be too simple for you to just get the information now, wouldn't it? Why would I provide such things when it is so joyful seeing you all grovel to figure it out? But I am not against giving a simple yes or no to if you're there or not. Game is scary. Well, it is indeed built to be a horror experience. But my job here is to get these paranormal activities away from as many humans as I can. We've jumped like 9 times now. I apologize for the horrific theme. Not long at all, but by human standards, perhaps a couple hours. Despite being ancient, I am quite knowledgeable in everything that has been made. I know that all too well, and me grovel, I think you have underestimated me. It matters not to be finding out is none of my concern, at least not finding out through riddles. After all, that is my specialty. Well, perhaps you have met someone equally as manipulative as you. However, seeing you prideful is quite endearing. He's saying it would be an insult to play my guessing game. However, I imagine he will eventually find a way to weave a web of words to determine it regardless. It simply seems his nature to find a very how will I say, perverse way of speaking to me, which I am not against, just noting. That would depend if it interests me or not, and it does not at this time. All right. It's again to each their own. Information poltergeist, huh? I'm on a question. Please do not be hesitant. There's no reason for caution around me, as I am mostly an observer who has been forced into such a position as to entertain you. However, I am glad that I appear to be at least likable. You can't have the spotlight. I much prefer to watch the mortals enjoy. The mortals enjoy. Oh. It's an odd question. Well, every question you two have asked me has been odd from my perspective, considering I do not typically interact with people. But I suppose that's just kind of how it is, isn't it? Drawings in the video. Make sure it goes. Why so jiggly? Oh, I'm not necessarily in control of that. It is simply a way I was developed. However, I believe it is for the enjoyment of males of your species. However, my neck snaps quite drastically when I glance over at your words, so I am not entirely sure why, but I am sure that it is just to be sexualized. sort of freakiness. I suppose. Samora 2 has quite similar physics to a less of a degree. However, I suppose I am still incredibly anxious on if you enjoy my company, as to say. Can you eat the computer? No, you cannot. It is mine. I was not in the house at a good time, was I? How disappointing. You have noticed the mating ritual to attract others? I would be rather cautious talking to Volt Weaver Lucifer. Randomly, it is quite old. The notebook, it has drawn a human. He does not know. But then again, you have sort of subjected yourself. Oh, yes. Well, this statement still stands despite my misunderstanding. But yes, I can agree. Can you eat the rose? What rose? On my belt? No. It is, not technically alive? Do you not have food in your dwelling? First mirror to the car. Ghost on radio. Perhaps. Go retrieve more. Surely it is not impossible to do so. Hello. I was told you could communicate with this thing, however I do not know how, and therefore I will ignore it. Simply, I do not need to. Let me go to the store and buy stuff in the wallet with $32 in it. You can buy quite a bunch of ramen with that amount of money, I believe. Although it depends what store you are traveling to. Oh, negative. That is not how money works. Does your wallet have debt? Yes, but it sounds like it is not your debt, it is your wallet's. Simply sell the wallet and you will receive its debt no longer, and perhaps some money. I do not understand what you are asking of me. I also do not understand why you still appreciate the ad time. Samora had warned me that it does not work, and yet here you are, continuing to participate in it. Quite odd. I'm once again distracted. Fire cell, golden bomb. Oh, the doors will be quite annoying, won't it? Yes, I do. I'm aware. However, once again, I do not know why I would do that. Seems unbecoming, well, is it not? Not that it will necessarily affect you, Lucifer. Due to your generous donation to Samora's livelihood. True, I suppose, although it really should not be an option anymore. What is my impression of you? You are a child who seems to appreciate the concept of attention. And however, I do appreciate your presence. It is clear to me that you have an equal amount of anxiety as Samora. And that I do not understand. Oh, I did it in the wrong order. You have a lot of stress right now. Well, relax. To my knowledge, there is nothing perturbing you. That's the one thing we have in common, problems. Everyone has problems. Including me. And also Lucifer. I imagine. Because even if we are both not human, we definitely do have issues. What is the difference here? Multiple, I suppose? You're bad at dealing with them. I apologize. Can you not retrieve assistance in dealing with them? I have once again become distracted. This is very unbecoming. I do not have enough relationship points, huh? I never specifically asked, but thank you for your input. I simply made an assumption out loud. Not you, Volt. Please tell me I did not mess that up again. I did not. You can eat the ghost if you desire. Less of them around here will be useful. That is not the next step, is it? Open all doors, voodoo doll. Quite unfortunate. List once again. However, I do not see incense on this list, and therefore I am curious. Unless I am once again just not seeing it. Does incense work no matter what? Perhaps. I'm here to banish it, and weakening it is my only objective, and also I am quite unsure on what you are referring to, Lucifer. I apologize if I portrayed any hostility towards you. It was not my intent. Just open all the doors for some odd reason. With an enemy like this, it is quite annoying, due to its ability being quite interactive with the environment. Especially considering it's every single door. The doors around here, although dense, are not necessarily helpful due to their sheer amount. And now it is raining acid. Of course it is. So many doors. I feel like I am experiencing some sort of maze with no clear exits. Well, the doors are now open. Thank you. But once again, I do indeed apologize for portraying any hostility. It was not my intention. Hello, ghost. I am here to put you in this ball. I hear your loud feet stomping against the wooded floor. Catch a ghost without touching the catcher with my hands. What do you mean by that? Perhaps the poltergeist interacted with it in the split second it was airborne? Odd accomplishment. Also, these are interesting, although I will be ignoring them for now because I already investigated them and they are not of our concern. I'm not offended, it was just observation. Words are simply that, words. Offended, it was simply just an observation. Words are simply that, words. Your lack of commas in that sentence made it a bit difficult to understand, but I understand, I believe. I do not even recall what I was saying that may have insulted you. But I apologize nonetheless. Grammar is something I have not cared to learn. Me either. It was quite rather unimportant in the grand scheme of everything that is needed to know. Although sometimes it does indeed contribute to getting a point across, as disappointing as it is. The temperature read -15. Apology denied, as you have done nothing wrong. Your logic is sound, and I will move on. Welcome back. I hope your time away was optimal. Footprints an option. Yes, it is. I missed you as much as I missed anyone else. This is called Among Us. It looks quite perverse and pink. It does not appear to be a game if you are simply putting it in a chat. Logic should be used more by morals, emotions run wild, such as the start of many turmoils. True. However, although I am resistant to them, I am not exactly immune. So I do relatively understand. However, I do not enjoy the comprehension of them. Turmoil is an issue. Mental turmoil. You're welcome. Yes, emotions can be quite disappointing, which is ironic considering emotions are also disappointing. An emotion is disappointment. Am I saying that correctly? Perhaps not. I appreciate the compliment. However, my intelligence can easily be mastered by many. Despite the creating of most things, I did not take the time to understand them fully. I know, and I appreciate his presence greatly for it. Are you admitting to not be such a fan as him? Perhaps less so. I have gathered that information without Samora's input. Once again, we meet with a dream devourer. How infuriating. Yes. It is not necessarily you who can, although if you can, I would be rather impressed. I do not know the method of which this is possible. Dreams are simply electrical signals running through your brain, as much as thoughts are. Although I suppose by speaking and you pointing it out, it is quite interesting to see how versed I am in general information of the world. Thank you for showing me my pride. It's hard to think of big words? No, not necessarily. It simply takes me a moment to discover which words I choose to use. It is hard to be a fan of someone I've only just met. As such being, I said, hello there. Should have attacked. However, it is hard to be a fan of someone you have just met. I cannot read and fight at the same time. As such being said, I do not like relationships or adornments with living beings. Marionettes are much easier to be around, but I have spoken too much already about myself. Samara would be getting super scared right now. I hope not. That would be rather prudent of them to be waved by such fears. However, I appreciate that I am able to show bravery where maybe they did not. However, I'm not sure. Oh, well, that is good information to have. Had witnessed the mirror. Where? There it is. What is prudent? This is scary. I guess prudent could mean that, like, it isn't, well, I guess, to be honest, I don't actually know, but it felt like I used it in the correct context. I believe Voltweaver to be on the younger side. But even with age, wisdom does not always come. So regardless, I do not mind teaching them. I'm sure if you... Shrewd is a close correlation. Although I understand shrewd a bit more, prudent does not feel correct. Scythe is indeed a human of interest. What was I going to say? Oh yes, prudent, using shrewd as a comparison. It is like planning for the future. I was under the impression it was a negative, what is the word? Adjective. As if something or someone is prudent, they are not willing to bend their objectives. Prudent means choosing your words carefully. Oh. Well, then I suppose I did indeed use it wrong. But then again, I do not remember the context in which I said it. I don't know anymore. I believe you have access to a global superpower to identify this, do you not? What is my next objective? Mirror Holy Water Silver Bomb. Oh no, I never did the ashes, did I? Holy Water Silver Bomb. Where's the Holy Water? Holy Water, Silver Bomb, Catcher, I do not have room in my inventory for. Yet spell. You appear to be correct on that statement twice now. Although, Lucifer, I must admit that I have become quite a fan of hanging out around your presence. I find you rather interesting. This is quite unfortunate, isn't it? Perhaps not. That was rather helpful. Do I know any other languages? Is there a space language? The galactic alphabet is not a spoken language. However, I am aware of its existence. That is French, correct? I recognize the dialect, however, I do not understand what you are saying. Apparently, I do not recognize the dialect, considering I am incorrect. German. The Eastern languages are all too bit similar for my taste. But congratulations on being more intelligent in this manner. I assume that was your objective, at least. I once again appreciate the compliment. I messed up. I very much messed up. Oh, I'm sure I will not always be around. Apologize for what? I was unaware I committed anything atrocious. And once again, I am being met with languages I do not understand. Language is a topic much out of my information. So I am very not familiar with what you all are speaking of. But I appreciate the attempt at teaching me. I will never waver at an opportunity to understand what you are communicating. Although I believe reaching level 20 here will give me access to a collection of other things to play with. Perhaps. Level 20, yes. We have unlocked a new collection. I see. Quite annoying, if I am honest. New things to learn. Although I am not against it. We are now met with 18 options. You asked them to play Pokemon with me, and I didn't even play. I'm an asshole. Oh, I'm sure they did not mind. If anything, I'm sure they simply enjoyed the time that they had and gave a little thought to you and more thought to the game that they had played. Dark has been here for quite a while. This is not exactly a new appearance. However, I believe there is a modifier I can use to separate exactly what I want. Be able to choose. I could simply go for the new ones, I suppose. Although I am kind of enraptured to only go for the low modifiers for now. Simply because I want to catch a certain number of all of the types. You have missed enjoying Pokemon. It hasn't been something I have not enjoyed in quite a while. I believe Samara had told me the same story. They, in their opinion, they have ruined the franchise. My objective here is to get a golden statue of each of them. However, I believe it is a total of 50 captures you must commit, which is rather disappointing, but seeing them all here in cages is kind of inspiring to continue preventing their endless attack. It is quite a pursuit to get everything, but it must be done, or else safety could be compromised, and I once again wish to not repeat what happened the first time. However, you all should yell at Samora a bit aggressively to correctly portray the previous events I continue to reference, for it is a lot easier to discuss things when they are already out in the open. But I suppose it does not matter in the end. Things will happen as they always do. As I was walking away, I believed I heard the voodoo doll being tossed quite aggressively, but I do not know exactly where it may have gone. Up the stairs, perhaps, but it is clearly not here anymore, so I suppose it has been thrown. You will decline yelling at her? Well, I simply just gave you a reason, but alas, it does not matter overall. They are not the best at listening, despite the many efforts given. Yes, Voltweaver, what is it? I have no indication of your morals as an individual. but I do indeed enjoy your company. Once again, do not think you can physically eat another individual, but I cannot necessarily stop you from attempting. I'm skeptical that this EMF reader is giving me accurate results. Perhaps we will find out the hard way. Wait, I'm rather confused what I've done here. Oh, correct. I granted permission to attempt. Correction, I did not grant permission. I simply stated the fact that I have no control over that. Cannibals are a member of a species that simply consumes off of another one, correct? There are many in the animal kingdom. Humans as well. They are not that special. It is just, considered taboo for you all. But in the end of days, it is just food. I'm sure almost everyone here has committed some form of auto-cannibalism where you have consumed part of your own flesh. And if it is such a taboo, then that would be considered a crime. My knowledge is it is also considered a romantic thing to indulge in consuming one's flesh. Correct? Perhaps not injuring them, but mouth to skin does indeed happen, and I guarantee you there is at least some cells lost in that contact. Not more than some practices being worse, I suppose. You eat the inside of your mouth, and you will eat the skin sometimes when I get hungry. I have drank a fair share of my own blood. See? If you all have participated, then I do not see why it is such an issue for it to be done from one person to another, although I definitely do see the moral implications of it. I just simply do not fully understand why things cannot even be discussed when it is considered a taboo. Racers would not be on my yum bingo card. Are you referring to food you may have eaten? Considering the previous conversation, yes, I can agree. Samora, I believe, does indeed have an oral fixation, and she tends to chew on anything she can get her hands on. She has indulged in quite a bit of glue when she was younger, however. Temperature, which is not optimal. EMF is pointing towards poltergeist as well. The glue wouldn't certainly explain it. Explain what? Has Samora shown some sort of instance in where her consumption has proven to affect her personality? That is quite haunting, if I do say so. There is no lead in pencils anymore. It was replaced with graphite a long time ago. Correct. For some reason, it took you all forever to notice that lead was poisoning your minds. Have I been involved in war? No, I am simply a spectator. What you humans do to each other is none of my concern. However, I am in charge of dealing with the past and protecting you all from it to not lead into what happened. However, you all destroying each other is something that I do not simply care to intervene in. Can I adopt you? Perhaps. I apparently seem to give off a motherly vibe, however, I still do not understand it. That is quite a motion that you have presented with me, Volt. Adopting soul will turn mother into daughter. Quite the opposite. Quite the juxtaposition. It was requested that I adopt another, correct? Not the other way around? Or am I misunderstanding the conversation here? Perhaps. Fire holy doors. Of course it is the doors. It is always the doors. Such is annoyance. Once again, I do not witness incense on this list, which is quite perturbing. However, I will grab the golden bomb in its place. Perturbing. I guess it can be described as annoying. Something is annoying if something is perturbing. Almost a complicated, sort of frustrating. What was first? Fire salts? I will be ready next time it appears. Lucifer, I am quite confused where you have decided to pull that interesting fact out of seemingly thin air. I appear to be quite injured, but I am also aware that my vision is obscured way more than it would suggest. It is insane how much material you people put into making your food more edible. Saw you were to be adopted. Where? I saw you were to be adopted, hence the comment. I was not to be adopted, it was the other way around. I was requested to adopt one. Considering I have no culinary experience, my cooking would not be very good, for lack of a better word, I suppose. It would not be very acceptable, to say the least. Also, I am unsure of where I just threw that salt, which is quite infuriating considering I quite need it. Unless I threw it into the wall, but I'm pretty sure I just tossed it down the stairs on accident. And because of this, I will simply run outside and purchase more. Despite my ability to create the ground you stand on, I cannot simply pull matter out of thin air. It still has to come from somewhere. Whether it be radiation in the background or such. However, I do not necessarily conjure up things, as you seem to say. I've once again distracted. However, I must say I'm quite pleased to have all of you here communicating with me. It makes this much less anxiety-inducing, which is something I was incredibly anxious about. Which is ironic that I would be anxious about feeling anxiety in the future. Considering his misspelling, I do not see any perception of threat. However, I do not necessarily have any power to contribute over this. But once again, the communication has been a bit altered. Again, I must open every door in this annoying household. Well, that is quite annoying, isn't it? I do not know what you all are referring to. I will simply let you all hash it out. Holy fire appears to be my best option. Perhaps I should have brought in my other weapons. The constantly closing doors are quite annoying, considering my current objective is to open them all. That was done incorrectly. I did not know I was supposed to utilize that, but I am not against having done that on accident. Although I do believe I gotten a tad lost, and being trapped in here is not optimal at the moment. Hello. Please let me leave. Thank you. I have lost perspective of what you all are talking about. But hello. I see I have read this incorrectly. Quite annoying. Salt works, although not well. I am not adopting everybody. I simply, once again, do not understand the concept. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, new individual. Although I do see the word cry in there, so... But I imagine you do not want to be called that. You do not wish to be adopted. You are the one who started the conversation of calling me a mother. However, I will reinstate that I do indeed have alternatives I would rather be objectified as. Hello, Nico. It does come to my attention that it is proper to introduce myself as Sol, due to the possible confusion. However, I don't completely understand, considering there is only 2 names in the joint phrase of our collective name. There is no Twitch text-to-speech. I do not know what you are referring to exactly. That is quite annoying. All of those noises, I better not have been doors shutting behind me, because that is also rather annoying. Please do not hurt me. I am simply trying to open all the doors. I'm sorry? Okay. I sound depressed. I'm not. This is simply a methodology I use to speak. Consider it more calming than depressed. I suppose apathy would fit as well. However, apathy is not necessarily a tone that one can be heard in voice. Well, that is rather infuriating. I am out of things to protect myself with. I suppose apathy could be fitting. An amount of discare can indeed be heard, but I don't know if apathy extends beyond that. Although I suppose they are just an evolution of the same. Whichever, it does not matter to me, if I am honest. The only things left I have to protect myself are very much not useful. Let's hope I can get through this substantially. Although I realize now I must find that voodoo doll that was so rudely tossed away. Considering it is an important object all of a sudden, but we'll see if I am ever able to get to that stage. Also, once again, you must remember that I am quite anxious introducing myself to you all. So perhaps I will come out a little easier as time goes on. But for now, I am simply comfortable speaking in this manner. Although the amount of positive responses is quite heartwarming. I have decided it'd be easier to just buy a voodoo doll. The lack of empathy in the voice insinuates apathy, though. How does one have empathy in their voice? I suppose it just shows caring, which again leads me to the point of that are just one and the same, evolved to be more chronic. Am I incorrect in assuming that? Quite a pricey ghost. It is alright. I do indeed hope this amount of progress is suitable for optimalness. I'm sure there's a better phrasing, but I do not simply care to think about it. Although I can see where the confusion may come from being the assumption that I am indeed a star, considering I have been obligated to stream under the title of Come Meeting the Star, but I assume that is in reference to a pop star rather than an actual star, but with the name that I own also attached to that, it is quite confusing. Quite odd. I witnessed sparks just now. Odd. The world is full of splendor, I suppose. The amount of assumptions, though, is quite outlandish. Three it is. I'm worried I forgot to turn off my amount of danger, and I am getting something I am unfamiliar with here. However, only time will tell, and I am unaware of how this exactly functions. I can only assume it is the demon, but again, I am not sure. However, I have not witnessed any footprints just yet. It most likely is the demon, I guess. While I have most of your attention, however, I do have a question to ask on Samora's behalf. She was curious that if telling the story in which the historical event that I keep referencing took place, if it would be more welcomed if the story was much shorter than it could be, or if it actually lingered on actual, possibly entertainment, rather than just a full explanation in one go. She has gone through many ideas of which, but was unsure which to do. But for the sake of entertaining you all, she had thought of a method in which it would take a bit more time, but would also include hopefully entertaining spectacles as well. Entertainment without cutting anything out. Alright, so more of a long-form decision then. I will pass along that perspective. I do quite agree that it would be a little more entertaining, however, to experience the full thing. However, some of the times it does not seem relevant to the actual story, but simply gets you attached to the individuals involved. All individuals of which I did not get to interact with. So I suppose seeing them on a retelling of a screen might be quite intriguing, I suppose, for me as well. I only hope they are portrayed well. I suppose. However, I do believe that Samara relies heavily on all of your input. She would be rather defeated without all of your assistance. And that is why I am here to elicit a schedule, despite her busyness. Among other reasons, I suppose. However, I imagine you will be all seeing me a bit more as she decides to work on other projects. However, she has not disclosed any of these projects to me yet, so I am unaware. But your unkindred excitement is definitely something I will pass along to her. I am just a mere puppet master. Do not put so much stock in the fallen angel. I only just got here after all. Perhaps, but any amount of time given to her is quite valuable, as she does not even desire to experience her own time. She is quite a depressing individual to interact with on a daily basis, I must say. Did I mess that up? Perhaps I did. Odd. I don't think so. I threw the holy water first, yes? Interesting. If you would like more interaction, I suggest that she uses the Court of Dis. Assuming you are referring to Discord, I will pass that message along. Although despite her desire for interaction, I believe she is often met with a wall of anxiety that prevents her from moving forward into conversation, and thus does not much necessarily have anything to participate with, vocally at least. I am very curious why the holy water did not take effect. That is correct. Very useful. However, elaborating the noun of discord is quite an odd phrasing even for you, my friend. This looks rather odd. Is this important to my objective? I do not believe so. I imagine it is just supposed to be a dangerous encounter. But I will double check to make sure. I take any damage here? My fire with pentagrams throughout the house. If you step on it, the player takes damage over time. The fire goes out on its own. The demon can also attack players with its sword. Interesting. With the fire being lit, it's fire. Interesting. This paranormal entity seems to have sort of a cascade effect where they light fires on their own and then trigger more fires because of the more fires. I suppose that is how fire works, but with an entity creating them, it's quite unnatural. If I must, then I shall invade her inbox and give her a shove, or use more advanced techniques with puppet strings beyond. I won't go into detail. Well, I have no idea exactly how she will react, but based on the conversation and the amount of times we have discussed, I can assume that she would enjoy that to a degree, I suppose. However, I imagine she is quite busy at the very moment due to not even being able to stream, so I hope she will be able to reach out to your communications later. I saw this demon only once, now I cannot find them again. Quite annoying, if I am honest. She will get it when she does. I have done my part by getting the ball rolling. This is true, I suppose. Only one can do so much before it is up to the other person to interact with them. I suppose finding the mirror would be quite practical, since this individual seems to be quite resistant to interact. I did not think I was super too harsh on it originally, but I suppose it can happen. Or it is just a roll of the dice that I have not been able to catch them in the act of trying to commit anything. There you go. Please enjoy my water. Quite the elaborate ruse for her to get me in her DMs. Well, I suppose after all it was indeed my fault. I would not be too harsh on her about it. However, she very much does not have much control over her anxiety, which is an odd concept considering how much she has. I would assume by now she would develop some sort of skill to reason with it. Quite infuriating, if you ask me. But alas, she is only a simple creature of the world. Surprisingly, holy fire affects this creature greatly, which is quite odd, but I see that the silver bomb does indeed more damage, so I will simply use that. What if I told you it wasn't? Are you referring to her anxiety? But I am not entirely sure what you are referring to. Your qualifications as an individual regarding her mental health are very much not either of our concern, I guarantee you. She would talk to a blank canvas about all of her problems if she had one that would simply respond occasionally to. She is a rather simple individual who likes to pretend she is more complicated than she is. But I suppose the personality traits of any given individual cannot be chosen. Although her lively interactions on stream are quite amusing to see, in my opinion. No matter how terrified she is behind the scenes. Hello, Valkenheart. I have heard much about you. However, it is nice to finally meet you. I also appreciate the ease of actually understanding your name. The capitalization is quite helpful. And with such a short name, it's easy to read. But welcome. I assume you had been lingering in the shadows, but now that I am aware of your existence, I greet you. However, I am once again distracted. Close all the doors is still my objective, I guess. To my knowledge, there's no issue with being discovered. This is a social platform after all. It would be kind of odd to remain elusive forever when everyone around here is actively attempting to become something. Whether it be small or big. What if I told you that anyone can help? Do you think that anyone can change no matter how bad of a person they are? I believe that the concept of morality in this concept that you appear to have opinion in is not as relevant as you much think. I believe that the people change. People will always start to change based on experiences they have been met with. So overall, no, I do not think that any one action in the past can predict the future. Although the human brain is quite attracted to previously established stimuli, which creates a rather odd system of reoccurrence, I suppose. It only just now occurred to me that you were not referring to me. My apologies. However, it is not again your responsibility to deal with Samora's mental outbursts, as I would like to call them. I have been doing perfectly fine. Samora has been doing relatively okay as well, assuming you care more about their well-being than mine. Which perhaps is an odd assumption, but then again, we have just met. However, her body continues to fail her, despite her many attempts to try to make it to stop doing that. It's not, but I want to help you. It's not, but I want to help more, as I feel though I would only hurt. I do not understand, but okay. I believe you two have much anxiety, to which I do not understand, but I am simply acknowledging. No, I do not quite get it, but I will remain oblivious, I suppose, unless you wish to elaborate. However, Lucifer and Valken, I believe you two could indeed have quite an interesting friendship if you two would indeed talk a bit more. Knowing what I have heard from Samora and what I have interacted with Lucifer, you two seem to have quite a similar vibe, I believe it is called. Although this vibe, you humans seem to have just renamed the aura, which is quite an odd concept. You just contradicted yourself, my friend. If you do not have friends, and yet you are also treating them poorly, then your first statement is irrelevant. I suppose at this point I am waiting for the plasma absorber to do its magic. I suppose so, but considering I just labeled you as my friend through conversation, that is also inaccurate. We are all on the same plane of existence. There is no real or fake life in this context. It is simply the distance at which you people interact. I apologize for being in the way of such a rare occurrence, then. I appear to be quite injured, and I am unaware of my health situation. However, the amount of fire in this wooden dwelling is quite perturbing and curious. But Falconheart, I will make sure to pass on your condolences to Samora. I'm sure they much appreciate your attendance. I once again apologize for being in the way of your rare interaction. Oh, that is why I returned. 82% is not too bad at all. I'm simply a bit worried about it, I suppose. I imagine there is a flame burning in the basement, which I need to stop. Perhaps, perhaps not. It appears... Oh, money. It appears perhaps not. Money is quite useful in this world, I have gathered. Perhaps there is something to sniff at upstairs. The concept of interacting with one another is not necessarily a needed response when it comes to being a part of another individual's life. Good night, Bolt Weaver. It is a pleasantry to make your acquaintance. Once again, we'll reiterate that you two are indeed a good match. It's an odd autocorrect on your device. Good night, Bolt Weaver. I am considering leaving this expedition at a postpone for everybody, due to it being about the same amount of time it would take for Samora to end one of these little escapades, and I appear that one of her associates is also entertaining the masses, but however... Lucifer, I have been informed that Valken here does not participate in any direct messages that you may have accompanied your person. And however, I am not Samora, and I desire to continue this work, so here I go. The only relationship you will ruin is the one that you are not a part of. Perhaps take more chances and you will find yourself happier. If you remain comfortable in isolation, then that is an entirely different issue, as isolation for people is not exactly a comfort by default. But being aware of your past, I am also aware that that is not easy for you. But being uncomfortable in much situations is quite a good thing. That is how you humans break addiction and get out of your comfort zone, per se, to meet the loves of your life, in which case is quite productive. There appears to be blood splatter on the floor with EMF 5, and with this being my only option, however, I hosted you much before you even knew of my existence. Thank you very much. But yes, as I was trying to announce before, perhaps not all of them, but I was informed that you and Samora's relationship is quite at a standstill due to your decision. Perhaps you need to value your side a tad more then. Whether the individuals involved listened or not, it is still your side to tell and to move forward with. But once again, no one here can make you do what you desire. No one was calling you a terrible friend. That is simply your anxiety talking. A hiatus is not the end of a show. It is simply a time in between interactions of it. Simply create a new party then, in my opinion. I believe the individuals who would not listen to you then do not classify it as part of being a part of your party. And yes, that was quite an odd alliteration. Quite an odd noise. The Ouija board does not get interacted with. You create so many parties and try to so many relationships that eventually breaks you and doesn't make you want to try anymore. If everyone who relapsed eventually did not want to work at themselves, they would overdose on their drug of choice. I think you are simply giving up when met with obscene amount of negative circumstances. But then again, all you seem to have is what you choose to do when you move forward. And if you choose to not move forward, that is another issue to resolve. Well, then I suppose you should pick up a pencil and begin drawing again, shouldn't you? If ending it before it has ended properly is no effort, then simply finish it out and you will see the fruits of your misery. Once again, let the river flow rather than redirect it. Your inner turmoil is getting in the way of your possibly beneficial and positive interactions, it seems. Not saying you don't have a reason to. However, all I can see right now is you blaming yourself for things you cannot control. It's interacting with the incorrect thing. How annoying that it did not give me any new information, though. It is all that I know when you are told that your entire life, and it gets reinforced through every mistake it is, and all I can know. Well, if your entire life has been miserable up to this point, it seems only proper that you try to adjust that, is it not? Another dream devourer. How lovely. Maybe for someone with a stronger will can and wants to do, I am not just waiting for the end. Take it from another observer, it is not worth just watching endlessly. Eventually, you watch it all burn down in all of an instant. Then you look back wondering what could have changed and all the regrets that you could have done to prevent such a heinous decision. If a cavern crumbles with individuals inside, most people tend to try to dig them up. I see no such effort done by you at recent times. But then again, I suppose it is not my mission to make decisions for you. I am simply here to be a sort of hope. You possibly aim to be better. But of course, with hope, there is always a beginning and end. What marks that is up to you, I suppose. Samora began this journey with, well, I suppose both of us decided to create a cavern as you have created you have created a metaphor. And in this cavern that me and Samora has created, I can certainly see that no one, when we started this venture, would even care. Mostly because no one did exist at the very time of our beginnings. However, eventually all of you seem to have shown up and cared and appreciated everything we have done thus far. Even if it ended prematurely, it does not matter. We did not expect praise, and yet here we are with new friends, family members, and just a general better understanding of each other. Despite all of that, we still have our differences, and however, it is quite infuriating to deal with them 90% of the time. They are still the closest friend that I have. Mora and Valken have known each other about the same length as this channel, I believe. This Twitch adventure, perhaps. I would say a minimum of 9 months or so. However, this venture has almost gone on for a year, so. If only she knew the birthday, but she has relayed to me that she does not. For your mind and your troubles, life is not without making mistakes. We as individuals have our own troubles to go through. You are quite troubled. You are a quite troubled individual. Might I suggest trying with one person and going from there? It is obvious Soul and Samara care about you. Why not just talk with them? If you have no one else to talk with, at very least they both care. This is why you do not pop into chat. We appreciate your appearances nonetheless. And part of me has no doubt that you don't at least somewhat enjoy this type of attention that we always happily give to you. Not out of selfishness by you, but out of care from us. Perhaps it is worth angering this creature. Its timidness is getting quite absurd. However, if this is the last we see of you once again, we have appreciated your company greatly. And would much appreciate if you would appreciate yourself a bit more as well. However, according to history, I do not see that happening, which is rather disappointing. I am waiting here. I am unaware of how to direct message on Twitch. If you could start that interaction, I would greatly appreciate it. Why am I struggling to interact with those? Odd concept. I can't, otherwise I would. Alright, I suppose I shall attempt in a moment. However, I'm not very versed in this whole Twitch thing. You're not ruining the stream, and besides, it is Samora's. I'm only here to humor her. Perhaps, who knows? However, I can only imagine their history has something to do with it. I will pass the information you have provided in the direct message along to Samora. I'm sure they will be quite happy to receive it. Although I do now understand why you wish to discuss that in private. No, not quite. Although I suppose it is the start of a type of relationship. Ah, yes, I plan to anger it. For someone so adversed with all types of things, it is quite odd that you seem to enjoy a romantic form of relationship, Lucifer. Alright, Valkenheart, it was nice to meet you. I'm sure Lucifer once again appreciated your presence as well, despite their lack of care. Or lack of care to mention it, I should say. But I bid you adieu, my friend. Which I believe is French, but then again I am not versed in languages. It could be mistaking. Oh, the mirror is simply my next tool. I expected as much. Although I suppose most people here are indeed observers of this sort, so it is not unexpected for that to be the case. Well, that is quite humiliating. I was sure I had enough time to deal with both of the objectives I was aiming for, but I suppose not. Now I must fragrantly chase around these stupid wisp-looking individuals. That's humiliating, if I do say. And I do. The water I spilled did not even count. How infuriating. I suppose that is what I get for trying to go for a higher standard. And that is also quite annoying, is it not? Sudden silence. Quite interesting. Typically they lead to an attack, but I suppose with its more calm nature, it does not have that type of capabilities. You enjoy the freedom of having to. I am quite happy with all things considered. I am not entirely sure what you are referring to, but I am glad that you are happy with what you have. Gratitude to the universe is quite appreciated, especially to me. Oh, I understand now. I was under the assumption of a different form of way you were communicating. I suppose that is quite lovely then. Although I do find it quite odd on how much conversation that is being sent to Samora when I am indeed right here. But I suppose you all know her much more than I know you all, so I guess I suppose it only makes sense. However, as time ticks on, I must be going. Samora has officially done her duties as streaming by pushing me into this position. So I suppose I bid you all goodbye. Have a wonderful night, and I hope you enjoyed this lovely meeting, and I imagine I will be seeing you all in the future. Have a wonderful time. Goodbye. I do not understand what you were talking about. You have been talking to me quite often. I have done almost nothing but talk to you. I am quite offended. Oh, I understand what you mean. Yes, but you still sent out a hand to Samara, so although I am right here, I do appreciate the conversation. But Samara also has a lot to speak of on this matter, but again, it makes sense nonetheless. Anyway, I will see you all in the future. Goodbye, everybody.